Can machines be creative? It's a question that's kind of haunted humanity for ages, you know. And today, well, today we're taking a deep dive into some research that throws a pretty fascinating curveball into this whole debate.
Yeah, what's so fascinating about this particular study is that it moves beyond just the theoretical and throws us right into this messy and kind of hilarious world of experimental fiction.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. We're talking like battling literary characters, AI-generated fight scenes,
Exactly.
and like a whole lot of questions about what it actually means to be creative, right?
Exactly. The research we're looking at today, it comes from those findings from EMNLP 2023.
Okay.
And it really centers on these things called large language models, LLMs.
LLMs.
Think of them like really, really smart computer programs, but they're designed to understand and generate human language.
So basically, the kind of AI that powers those, like chatbots everyone's talking about.
Precisely. And what these researchers wanted to see was how those LLMs, how would they stack up against, actual humans in a creative writing challenge?
So it's like a good old-fashioned writer's duel.
Exactly.
But with algorithms in the mix. Okay, I am so in. What did they have to write about?
Well, here's where it gets interesting. The researchers didn't want to give the AI an easy out. They wanted to test for true, out-of-the-box creativity.
Right.
So they came up with this scenario. So bizarre, so wonderfully specific, that it would kind of minimize the risk of the AI simply regurgitating something from its training data.
Okay, hit me with it. What outlandish scenario did they dream up?
All right, so picture this. Ignatius J. Reilly, that hilariously grumpy protagonist from the novel A Confederacy of Dunces.
Yeah.
He is locked in this epic battle with a pterodactyl.
Hold on. Ignatius versus a what? Now, that's a writing prompt I have not heard before.
Right. And it gets even better. They didn't just want any old battle scene. They wanted the showdown written in the distinct satirical style of John Kennedy Toole, the author of the book.
Talk about a tall order.
Right.
So they had to capture the voice of a specific character, nail a very specific comedic tone, and make it an epic showdown worthy of, like, Homer himself.
Exactly.
That's a lot to juggle even for a human writer.
Exactly. And to make sure it was a fair fight, they had a group of talented human writers actually go head-to-head with the AI.
Okay.
We're talking students skilled in creative writing, ready to defend humanity's honor against these, algorithmic wordsmiths.
I love it. Okay, so we've got our outlandish writing prompt. We've got our human champions. But who are the AI contenders in this digital gladiatorial arena?
Well, the researchers really assembled a who's who of the AI language model world. They included big names you've probably heard of, like ChatGPT.
Of course.
They used both the GPT 3.5 and the even more advanced GPT 4 versions, as well as Bard and Bing Chat.
So the heavy hitters of the AI world showed up ready to write.
Yes.
Did they invite anyone else to the party?
Yeah, so they also wanted to see if this was a big tech only kind of thing. So they brought in a bunch of open source models like Alpaca, Claude, DALL-E 2.0, GPT-4All-J, Koala, Open Assistant, Stable LM, and Vicuna.
Wow.
It was a real showdown of different approaches to AI writing.
It sounds like the guest list at an AI writers convention.
Yes.
Okay. You've got the humans, the machines, this wonderfully weird writing challenge. But how do you even begin to judge something as subjective as creativity? Isn't that like comparing apples and oranges?
That's where things get really, really interesting. To keep things objective, the researchers, they developed a rubric. It's essentially a scoring system based on what makes for solid writing across the board.
So like those Olympic diving competitions.
Yes.
You've got points for technical difficulty, artistry, execution.
Precisely. Their rubric had 10 different criteria, each scored on a scale of 1 to 10. Things like readability, narrative elements, plot logic, structural elements. Did the story make sense? Was it well organized?
Right.
They covered all the bases.
Yeah. So far, it sounds like the kind of stuff you'd look for in any good story. What else did they include?
Well, remember, this wasn't just about writing a decent story.
Right.
It was about capturing a very specific style and tone.
Right.
So they also looked at how well the stories captured John Kennedy Toole's writing style, how well they incorporated elements of the epic genre.
Wait, hold up. Epic genre elements and the cynical wit of John Kennedy Toole? That's like mixing Shakespeare with stand-up comedy. How is that even possible?
You're catching on. It was a tall order. They also factored in how vividly they described the actual combat, how well they portrayed the main characters, Ignatius and the pterodactyl, and get this, how effectively they used dark humor.
Dark humor and pterodactyls? This just gets better and better. Who knew academic research could be so entertaining?
Right.
Okay.
But here's the real kicker. They didn't want their own opinions to influence the results, so they brought in a panel of impartial judges. Think of them as the literary tastemakers of this AI showdown.
Impartial judges. So it's like The Voice, but for AI storytellers.
You could say that. These judges, they received a stack of stories, but they had no idea which ones were crafted by humans and which ones were generated by the AI. This blind judging process ensured a level playing field.
Okay, I'm officially on the edge of my seat. We've got the setup, the contenders, the judges. Time to crown a champion. In this battle of wordsmiths who emerged victorious, did humanity reign supreme, or did the machines claim victory in the creative arena?
Drum roll, please. Well, you're not going to believe this.
Don't leave me hanging. Who won? Spill the tea. Did a human writer win this epic showdown, or are we looking at, like, the rise of the machines?
When the dust settled, it was ChatGPT, specifically the GPT-4 version, that took home the gold.
Wait, seriously? The AI actually beat out the human writers? I have to admit, I'm a little bit terrified and a whole lot intrigued all at the same time.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's easy to kind of jump to conclusions, but like any good story, there's more to this than meets the eye.
Okay, so before we hand over the literary reins to the machines, let's talk limitations. This wasn't like a simple humans versus AI cage match where the winner takes all.
Right, exactly. This was one study with a specific writing task and a relatively small sample size. It's way too early to say that all AI is suddenly going to start churning out Pulitzer Prize-winning novels.
Okay, good. I wasn't quite ready to ditch my library card for an AI subscription just yet, but it's still pretty wild that ChatGPT did so well. What did the researchers find when they really dug into those scores? Were there things the AI was particularly good at? Areas where humans still had, like, a clear edge?
That's where it gets even more interesting. Because it wasn't just about who won, but how they won. When they broke down the scores, some fascinating patterns kind of emerged.
Okay, I'm ready for the AI breakdown. Lay it on me.
Well, first, let's talk about where AI really shined. Turns out these language models are incredibly good at all the technical aspects of writing.
Okay.
Think of them as the grammar nerds of the literary world.
So they're the ones who would catch me mixing up your and your.
Exactly. They aced things like sentence structure, readability, making sure the story flowed logically.
Right.
They excelled at clarity and organization, which, let's be honest, are crucial for any good story.
Okay, so they've got the basics down, Pat. But what about the things that are, like, harder to teach? Things like plot, character development, the stuff that makes a story truly captivating.
That's where it gets even more fascinating because the AI was surprisingly adept at those too.
Really?
Remember how the prompt mentioned incorporating elements of the epic genre?
Yeah.
Think like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones stories with these grand battles, heroic characters, a larger-than-life feel. Well, the AI really leaned into that.
So we're talking sweeping battles, maybe a little divine intervention. Did Ignatius take to the skies on this pterodactyl?
You get it. And the judges actually rated the AI higher than the human writers when it came to, nailing that epic genre feel. They were masters of those tropes and conventions, just weaving them seamlessly into their stories.
That's incredible. So the AI excelled at structure and genre conventions.
Yeah.
But what about the things that are harder to pin down, like originality, that spark of human weirdness that makes a story truly unique?
Now you're getting to the heart of it.
Yeah.
And this is where, perhaps unsurprisingly, humans still hold a bit of an edge. While the AI produced stories that were technically sound, well-structured, and genre-appropriate, they struggled when it came to true originality.
So the AI could follow the rules and write a good story, but it wasn't exactly reinventing the wheel.
Exactly. The human writers, on the other hand, they were bursting with creative ideas. They came up with all sorts of wacky scenarios and unexpected twists that the AI just couldn't match.
It's like that old saying, AI can imitate, but it can't innovate.
Right.
At least not yet. Which makes me wonder, what about the humor? John Kennedy tool is notoriously difficult to mimic, even for humans. How did the AI do in the laugh department?
Well, remember that rubric with its 10 scoring criteria?
Yeah.
Out of all of them, humor was where the AI struggled the most. By far.
Ouch. That's got to sting. It's like trying to program a robot to tell a good knock-knock joke.
It kind of is. While a few models, like ChatGPT-4, Claude, and Bing, showed a decent grasp of humor, most of them fell really flat. Understanding those nuances, especially when it comes to dark humor, still seems to be a very human thing.
It's like they say, analyzing humor is like dissecting a frog. You might learn something, but no one's laughing at the end.
Right.
So we've got AI that can write a grammatically correct, genre-appropriate story, but still struggles with those uniquely human elements of humor and originality.
Don't forget, it also outperformed humans on those technical aspects.
Right. Of course.
It's a fascinating blend of strengths and weaknesses.
It really is. Which leads to the bigger question. What does this all mean? Where do we go from here?
Hold on, let's not jump the gun. This research doesn't mean AI is about to take over the literary world. At least, not entirely.
So no robot novel revolution just yet.
Not just yet.
But this research it sparks some really interesting questions about, like, the future of writing.
Yeah.
What happens as these AI writing tools become even more sophisticated? Where does that leave human writers?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's something this research really makes you think about. What does it mean for creativity if AI can master the technical aspects of writing so well?
Yeah. It does make you wonder, is it possible that AI could eventually take over some of those more technical aspects of the writing process? It's like, what if instead of replacing human writers entirely, AI becomes more like a superpowered writing assistant?
Now that's an intriguing thought. Imagine AI tools that could help writers smooth out their prose, catch those pesky grammatical errors, maybe even generate different drafts or storylines based on a writer's initial ideas.
It'd be like having a tireless editor and brainstorming partner all rolled into one.
Exactly.
That could free up human writers to really focus on those aspects of storytelling that AI still struggles with. Things like crafting truly original plots, developing those complex, nuanced characters,
Yeah.
and, of course, injecting humor at all the right moments.
What's fascinating to me is how this could change the landscape of writing, especially in fields where speed and volume are super important. I'm thinking about things like marketing copy, news articles,
Right.
even some types of technical writing.
What if instead of replacing journalists entirely, AI could help them generate those initial drafts or summarize complex reports, giving them more time to focus on investigative pieces or really digging into those uniquely human interest stories?
Exactly. It could be a win-win, with AI handling the more mechanical parts of the process and human writers bringing their creativity, their insight, their emotional intelligence to the table.
That's a future I can get behind.
Yeah.
But there's still that lingering question, the one we always come back to in these AI discussions. Will we ever get to a point where AI can truly capture the magic of a great story?
Yeah.
The kind that stays with you long after you finish the last page?
Mm-hmm.
Will it ever be able to make us feel those deep emotional connections that make human storytelling so powerful?
That's the heart of it, isn't it? And while this study suggests that AI still has some work to do in those areas, who knows what the future holds? Technology is constantly evolving. What seems impossible today might be commonplace tomorrow.
Yeah. It really makes you think about the nature of creativity itself. Is it something unique to humans, or can it be replicated in algorithms? And if we do get to a point where AI can write those deeply moving, emotionally resonant stories, what does that mean for us?
It's a question without easy answers, but it's one worth pondering. This study has given us a fascinating glimpse into the potential and the limitations of AI as a creative force.
It certainly has. We've gone from battling literary characters to the future of writing, all thanks to one research paper and, of course, a healthy dose of AI-generated pterodactyl mayhem.
I have to admit, that image is going to be stuck in my head for a while. Speaking of which, remember how the researchers had those specific criteria for judging the stories?
I do. The epic genre elements, the dark humor, it was quite the combination.
Right. But they didn't include anything about the illustrations. Imagine if they ask human and AI artists to team up and illustrate these stories.
Oh, man, that's a thought. Would the AI gravitate towards those, epic cinematic illustrations? Maybe with Ignatius riding off into the sunset on the back of a pterodactyl.
And would the human artists go for something more abstract, maybe capturing the absurdity of the situation or the inner turmoil of Ignatius himself?
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, what would a truly collaborative creative project between a human and AI look like? Would we get the best of both worlds, or would it just be complete chaos? That's something I'd love to explore further.
Me too. There's a whole world of possibilities out there when it comes to AI and creativity.
And that wraps up another deep dive. We've explored the fascinating world of AI and writing, unpacked some cutting-edge research, and of course, spent some quality time with a certain grumpy protagonist and his unlikely pterodactyl foe.
As always, it's been a pleasure to dive into these fascinating questions with you.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. Keep those questions coming, and we'll keep diving deep. Until next time.